Hi, it's MP the tutor here. And today we're looking at quadratic simultaneous equations. And in these sort of things, we end up with basically what's called quadratics, which is when you've got x squared somewhere. Or it'll turn into an x squared once you plug in the numbers. Now, what we're going to do is we've got this x squared plus y squared equals 100, and y equals x plus 2. Now, the top one is actually a circle, and it has a radius of 10. And the bottom one's just a straight line. So what you've got is the circle and a straight line going through it. So what we're trying to find is when is the line going to cross through the circle in terms of the x value and the y values of the coordinates. So you could actually have its coordinate. But what we're going to do is we're going to have this first equation, but with the y, we are going to replace with y, which is otherwise known as x plus 2. So what we would have to do sometimes, which we'll do in the next question, is look to rearrange formulas a little bit. But in this case, we don't need to. So we have x squared plus y squared equals 100, and y equals x plus 2. So we're replacing the y with our y, or what x plus 2. So what does that do? Well, that means we have x squared plus x plus 2 squared equals 100. And then we're going to expand out that bracket. So you could have a little grid, x and 2, we multiply together, x times x is x squared, x times 2 is 2x. This one at the bottom is x times 2 is 2x again, and 2 times 2 is 4. So what we have is you have your first x squared, but then you have plus another x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 100. We're going to collect the like terms. You have 2x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 100. Then I'm going to take away that 100, so minus 100 from both sides. So you end up with 2x squared plus 4x minus 96 equals 0. Now, what we can do in this case is they're all even. So I could half it, and then I'm going to factorize it and go down that route, just to have a little look at that way. But you also could have just plugged it in the quadratic formula, but I'm going to divide by 2. So you end up with x squared plus 2x minus 48 equals 0. And this factorizes because it's planned. So we have an x and an x. And the factors of 48 are 1 times 48, 2 times 24, 3 times 16, you got 4 times 12, you got 6 times 8. And we're going to use the bottom one. So you have plus 8 and a minus 6 equals 0. And therefore you have x plus 8 equals 0, x minus 6 equals 0. So we have x equals minus 8 and x equals 6. So if we're not sure on those and how to factorize it and solve it like that, I'll put a link in the description into more to do with quadratics. So I've kind of not quite rushed through that a little bit, but if you want to go down the route of factorizing, I'll put a link in the description. So we now have x equals minus 8 or x equals 6. What we then need to do is find out y. Now, our y equals x plus 2. So we have y equals minus 8 plus 2, so y equals minus 6, and y equals 6 plus 2, so we have y equals 8. Doom, doom, and that's your answer. Now, if we wanted to go down, what is the coordinates? Well, our first one is x is minus 8, and then minus 6. And this one up here would be 6, 8. So that is a simple example, or one example of a quadratic simultaneous equation. We might end up with a circle and a line going through it. So let's look at this next one. Here we have x times y, or xy, equals 24, and x plus y equals 10. Now what we need to do here, first of all, rearrange the bottom one to make one of the letters a subject. So it doesn't really matter which one we're going to do, but we typically might find y. So we have our x plus y equals 10. What we're going to do is we're going to take away x, take away another x. So we have y equals 10 minus x. What we can then do is replace our y in this equation with this y here. So we end up with x brackets 10 minus x equals 24. Well, let's expand out that bracket. So x times 10 is 10x minus x squared equals 24. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put everything onto the right hand side this time to have positive x squared. It doesn't overly matter, but what that means, I'm going to take away the 10x. I'm going to add x squared both sides. So what we get is 0 equals x squared minus 10x plus 24. Now again, because this is planned, this does actually factorize. So we have an x minus another x and a minus. And what we need to do is find the factor of 24, where they are both negative, get 24 and to minus 10. So that is your 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6. Well, that will get you minus 4 minus 6, and that equals 0. I can put the equals on there. So what you have then is x minus 4 equals 0, or x minus 6 equals 0. What that means is then x equals 4 and x equals 6. So we're almost there. We now need to find y. Well, we have x equals 4 or x equals 6. And we have a y equals 10 minus x. What does that mean? Well, that's y equals 10 minus 4, which is 6. Or y equals 10 minus 6, which is 4. So you have x equals 4 and x equals 6, y equals 6, and y equals 4. So let's have a look at this next one. Now this one is a circle, and again another circle, but the center point of this circle is at minus 2, 1, and the radius is 13. And we have a line going through that circle, and it would look something like that. And then you'd have 2 points on that circle which it would intersect with. And it doesn't necessarily go through the center of that circle, and I know it doesn't anyway. So it's more going to be up here. So that's kind of a rough sketch. And it's not a bad idea to roughly sketch a line or a graph, sometimes to get an idea of what's happening, if you're able to. But all we're going to do here is replace our y with a y. And that is that whole thing there. So our y equals 2x plus 7. So what I'm going to do is you've still got your x plus 2 in brackets squared, but then we have plus 2x plus 7 minus 1 squared equals 169. Let's simplify that bracket. So you still have your x plus 2 in brackets squared. Then we're going to plus you got 2x plus 6 squared equals 169. What we're then going to do is we're going to expand out those brackets. So we have an x and a 2, an x and a 2. That gets you x squared. That's a 2x, another 2x, and a 4. So that first one is x squared plus 4x plus 4. And the second one, we have 2x and a 6, 2x and a 6, that's a squared. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times 6 is 12x. And then we have 2x times 6 is another 12x. and 6 times 6 is 36. So that gets you plus 4x squared plus 24x plus 36 equals 169. Now what we're going to do is collect the like terms. So we have our x squared plus 4x squared is 5x squared. 4x plus 24x is plus 28x. 4 plus 36 is 40, so plus 40, and that still equals 169. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it equal 0. So we have 5x squared plus 28x minus 129 equals 0. The next step in this is to figure out what x is. Now, this probably factorizes, but is not very nice figures. So what we're going to do is the quadratic formula. And I'm going to put a link in the description towards solving quadratics. So what we have is you have minus b plus and minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Where a in this case is 5, b is 28, and c is minus 129. So we have minus b, which is minus 28, plus and minus the square root of 28 squared minus 4 times 5 times minus 129 all over 2 times 5. So I'm going to go plug that in the calculator, and let's see what we get. So we plug that in a calculator, and you get x equals 3, or x equals minus 43 over 5. Now I also could have written that as minus 8.6. Doesn't really matter. Then, if we go back up, we have our y equals 2x plus 7. So to work out y, we must go down here. Y equals 2x 7. So for our first one, we have y equals 2 lots of 3 plus 7. That means that y equals 6 plus 7, or y equals 13. What about the next one? Well, we have y equals 2 lots of minus 43 over 5 plus 7. Now I'm going to have it in this format, because then if you end up with fractions like thirds, you don't get recurring decimals. So you have y, we have 2 lots of the 43, which is 86 over 5, so it's minus. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the 7 into fifths. Now 7 is 35 over 5. And then you have y, you got 86 minus 86 plus 35, so minus 51 over 5. So those are your answers for y, and here are your answers for x. So here we have the whole question on the screen. We got the solve bit at the beginning, where we first of all plugged in our 2x plus 7 into our first formula at the top. You then plug in the values, get it equals 0, then we quadratic formula it. You get the values for x, and you plug that into the other formula with the y equals 2x plus 7 to find our y values. So if it's coordinates, what you'd have is you could have it as 313 or minus 43 over 5 minus 51 over 5. Because this is a circle intersecting a line, you could have it as coordinates as well. So it's a bracket. So why don't you have a little look at exercise 3b, having a go at some of the questions. If you're struggling overall with quadratics, it'd be worth going back to the other videos, do quadratics, and have a little wander through those first, which I'll put a link in the description. But hopefully you had a chance now to have the questions. The answers now on the screen. Mark them and see. And then I'll hopefully see you in the next video.